Thank you. This is kind of an amazing morning. I feel a little overdressed. I'm not usually quite this ceremonial. But I am here, all you graduates and families and friends and faculty. I gather to send you exuberantly and rousingly into the lives that I expect you're keen to begin. I may not be exuberant or rousing, we don't know yet, but I won't be long. And of course, you've already begun. There are plenty of people who speak condescendingly, I must say, about the academic environment as a sort of ivory tower that's detached from what they like to refer to as the real world and real life. They like to imply that real life is hard, bitter, contentious, and grueling, while this ivory tower business is merrily remote from anything of genuine concern. Whereas you probably feel that you've been surviving and now triumphing in a fairly real place. I should confess right away that although, as previously mentioned, I did graduate from Western, I did so after such reluctance and hesitation on the part of the university that a moment like this would have been laughable. And if they check their records, it's possible it still is laughable. I can't say I regret so often redirecting my energies, to put it delicately, from the classes I was supposed to be attending. I can say that while you've obviously given far more attention to the business of formal learning than I sometimes managed, I hope you've also reveled in some of the delicious and truly useful aspects of a university's informal education, that you've found here some enduring activities, passions, people, whatever to love. Now, in the next manifestation of your real lives, your job will continue to be figuring out not only what you want to be doing, but who you want to be as you're doing it. For anyone who's been looking forward to a future that involves some kind of firm settling in, settling down, knowing, I fear disappointment. It doesn't happen. Well, that's not quite true. I guess I mean it shouldn't happen. It is the case that some people do sink into their immediate surroundings and consider themselves pretty much finished, as if they'd painted themselves and had themselves pleasantly framed and hung on a wall. But you here today have the advantage of the kind of education that fosters a broad and deep interest in the various natures and manifestations of humans. A good thing, since that interest is, as it happens, the essence of every issue and subject you'll ever engage in, from who does the dishes to who declares war. Because people are funny, often enough in fairly tragic ways, which is why there's such urgency about the qualities you are, I hope, bringing to the world's table. Curiosity, imaginative empathy, critical thought, intelligent debate, and not least, the courage to dissent. All of which, in juicy side effect, also make life a whole lot more fun. You may have noticed, because you're the people most directly facing these challenges, that the world isn't doing too well. For one thing, our species just keeps proving its aptitude for greed and viciousness in pop-up spots everywhere on the planet. For another, we seem to actually be wrecking that planet itself, cheerfully tearing it apart for its contents, its resources. Kind of like burning the furniture to keep warm or toast marshmallows, it works for a while, but eventually the household is mere smoking rubble. I figure that one happy side effect of having this fabulous silver hair is that I won't have much adapting to do. You, however, will. And while the house is burning, so are our ears, which brings us to what I most want to say. I realize I have a vested interest in the importance of language. Words have been the tools, and really the only tools I've used in both my careers, in journalism and in fiction writing. I love everything about them, from their solid syllables and plain tones to the vaults and backflips they can perform when they're excited by their own buoyant rhythms. You may or may not need the words in your life to do vaults and backflips, but wherever you head to do whatever you do, I expect you know that words will nevertheless be your basic tools too, speaking them, writing them, and very, very carefully listening to them. It will be your job, as it is mine, to resist superficial words and comfortingly simple answers and rules. That means we have to keep alert to slithering mutations of words and be always questioning the sly, deliberate misuses of propagandists, institutions, politicians, all the various individuals and agencies intent on sliding us without our noticing towards their points of view. Here's just one example that sounds minor, but in effect can turn out to be pretty big. It's about the taxpayer, which includes all of you and me, and how often the word crops up, as in, the taxpayer deserves this, and the taxpayer doesn't care about that, and why should that be the taxpayer's job? Taxpayers, we gather, are a terrifically grumpy, fed up, put upon load of people. But try this. Substitute the word citizen for taxpayer and see how perspective may turn on its side. Instead of being an aggrieved writer of checks, one can perceive, however faintly, the possibility of being a person who, yes, does write checks and is severe on the subject of corruption and waste, but does so believing that our contributions are a responsibility toward the safety and well-being of the society we agree to form with each other, the one that both provides services we and our fellow citizens need and enjoy, and, not insignificantly, fend off chaos. There's a belonging and mutuality involved in being a citizen, not so much a mere sad sack taxpayer. I'd suggest, too, that when you hear sentences beginning with, say, the reality is, or to be perfectly honest, you might want to think, uh-oh. Or when you hear one of the multitude of coded expressions that have entered common use, really there are so many, but let's take family values, for instance. Do spend a moment decoding and checking the words against your own values, which may well be quite different from what the expression is designed to imply. So make sure, at least in honor of the distinguished Mr. Orwell, to dissect words and expressions that otherwise may skip lightly through the mind. Beware those who try to affect public discourse by hijacking language, making words say almost exactly what they do not mean. We need such scrutiny of words in order to properly query and resist radical simplicities and fundamentalisms. Of course, simple answers and clear rules are tempting, so relaxing to give up and just fall into their embrace. But please be skeptical, only sometimes cynical, and paranoid only when absolutely necessary, but always skeptical. Ask questions, wonder, dig further, and ask more questions and more. Read. I assume you already know this from the success of your studies, but not too strangely, actually kind of obviously, reading can only deepen your acquaintanceship with the real possibilities of meanings and words and of human beings. Reading well will also remind you that you and yours are not the only people on earth, and that your circumstances are extraordinary. That for each of us, just being in this room today is an astonishing luxury. Because, you know, none of us, not you nor I, is the center of any known universe. By and large, your troubles and mine are not only not catastrophic, they're barely interesting. In fact, one of my novels is called Luck, and it came about precisely to explore the notion that in this time, in this particular part of the world, that's what we by and large are, lucky. Those of us in this room right now may have worked hard and overcome serious troubles and made the most of small and large opportunities, but just being here means we've won a long odds cosmic crapshoot. We are not in Darfur. Those of us who are women are not women in Saudi Arabia or Congo, or for that matter in some of the towns of Utah or BC. Whatever our lives have consisted of so far, we are each lucky to be here. We all engage life in different ways according to our own gifts, interests, perspectives, and natures. I've chosen writing, which is happily sedentary, just like me. You too are choosing modes of engagement that by and large suit your natures. I hope that that will be true for all of you. You all deserve to choose according to your natures. But in most times, this has not been the case, and in most places, it still is not. My dad, who lived to 88, once said he never had a job he enjoyed. He had a living to make and a family to raise, and actual choice wasn't an option. He did not have the opportunity to follow his heart, which is not to say he didn't do his best to have a very good time. And that's not even to mention my mother and the times and customs that shrank and constrained her possibilities. Her mother was a feminist, and yet by the time my mother was operating in the world, many of the gains made by the generation before her had already been lost. It's not my place to promote Margaret Atwood, who really does not need my help, but do read Handmaid's Tale, because those losses can occur with incredible ease and speed. So don't give a millimeter, don't give up any ground that could diminish any of the rights of women ever again. But whatever our gender, to sustain this rare privilege we each have to find purposes about which we're passionate and to surround ourselves with people we care for, we need to be persistently wary and on guard against those who would narrow our possibilities. So if you don't mind a little more summarizing advice, except that's what I think I'm supposed to be doing, please steer as clear as you can of the sad traps of greed and of easy, unconsidered obedience to power. Analyze and question the rules. Change the rules. Break them if need be, while understanding there are consequences and penalties for that. Witness. Don't settle. Do as little harm as you can. Have fun, because it is fun, aiming to have a smart, conscious, curious life. Already you're triumphant and lucky and hopeful, and this is a day we celebrate that. Congratulations on your achievements. Enjoy them. Thanks for letting me share with them today. And now, go out there and make beauty and intelligence happen. Thank you.